Welcome to Barnstable Today. I'm Nick Cortez. Well, not too long ago, the 2010 U.S. Census data came out, and of course, since then, it's prompted a whole slew of questions as to what's going to happen to our political representation at the federal level, all the way down to the local level here in Massachusetts. And to answer a whole bunch of those questions about what could happen here in Barnstable over the course of the next couple of years as a result of that census data, we've brought in our local expert, Town Clerk Linda Hutchenrider. Linda, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Now, Linda, let's start off with a couple of general questions. First of all, just looking at the population numbers across the town of Barnstable, we went from 48,000 people and change to about 46,275 people over the course of the past 10 years. Now, what does that say to you about the complexion of the town of Barnstable, especially when we've talked so much about the really heavy growth in Barnstable in a couple of decades prior?
Right. We had a phenomenal amount of growth 10 years prior to our current census. But, you know, as with everything, it seems you have ups and you have downs, and we are definitely showing a downward or flattening of the population growth here in the town of Barnstable. And there's a number of reasons behind it, I feel. Number one, we had a large influx of individuals from various other countries who came here to work in the service industries. They are now, a lot of them, going back home because the economy in their own areas is now better than what it is here. So we're finding them going back home. We're also looking at the fact that we have a lot of people that used to be called snowbirds. They are now finding that the taxation positive aspects of their life in Florida is a lot better if they just stay put. So a lot of them are selling their homes here. A lot of them are going south. They can't afford to support two homes anymore. So we have a lot of differences that are now in place that were not in place in the year 2000.
Now, out of the just under 2,000 people that have left Barnstable over the course of the last 10 years, over 1,000 of them came from Precinct 9, which covers part of Hyannis. Talk about, first of all, whether or not that surprises you and possible reasons for such a huge concentration of people leaving such a small area of the town.
No, it doesn't surprise me. Number one, that area is a transient area. It has Cromwell Court in it. It has a lot of the areas where individuals who came in the year 2000 lived. And, you know, I first of all thought there might be a problem there, but then I looked at my own census figures, which are not as good as the federal census because we can't afford to go door to door.
Sure.
And there is a definite difference. There's a difference of over 1,000 to 1,500 people between some of the other precincts we have in our town and that area.
Now, what ultimately is going to have to happen in the town of Barnstable as a result of these new numbers?
Okay, it's up to the council. Nobody else except the council. They are the ones that have to look at all these figures, and they have to decide if they want to go with 12 precincts, because you can't have more than 4,000 people in a precinct. So you can have 12 precincts with 48,000 people as your cap. So they could have that, or they could continue to keep their 13. And what happens is when you have 13 precincts in an area where the population has decreased, those precincts have to get larger. And I think what we have looked at on the draft scenarios that have been given to us.
Let's go ahead and actually take a look at that right now. This is the current precinct map as it exists in the town of Barnstable, but I'd like us to take a look at the draft 13 precinct map, which is what you can see right here. I think one of the biggest changes, Linda, that we've seen based on this draft that exists right now, and of course there are a lot of other possibilities I would imagine, is the drastically larger Precinct 9.
Oh, sure. I mean, if you look on the right-hand side of the screen, you will see that Precinct 9 used to be, it looked like almost a chair tipped on the side. It came down with a point, but now that whole grade area goes up into Comaquid. And they had to do that in order to equalize the amount of people that are in each precinct. So what you have seen in this is 9 definitely growing. 8 has remained basically about the same. 13 grew a little bit. 3 is the same. 4 inched out a bit. I think the biggest change comes in the Comaquid, Hyannis area. That 9 is the one that really shoots it way out of perspective.
Sure.
And I think what the people have been looking at more is the fact that they are still, the councilors still are thinking about their own villages. And they are hoping to have the precincts fall within their villages. If you look at the Precinct 12 map, I don't know if we can go to the map that has the 12 precincts on it.
We certainly can, and this would be that, the reduced proposed precinct map that only has 12, not 13 precincts.
Right. So what you have done here in the Precinct 12 map is you have had to definitely go to 12 instead of 13, so you're losing one. But Precinct 9 stays in Hyannis. Precinct 8 then grows down. We've knocked 13 out.
Right.
So we have basically 8 and 9 that are now taking over the greater part of Hyannis. And Precinct 1 now still remains with basically Comaquid in the village of Barnstable. It has come down a little bit into Hyannis. But other than that, I think we could possibly make a few changes so that the Yarmouth Road area might be able to be swapped out for something on that point of Precinct 9.
Now, if you were the one who was making the decisions, and you're not, you're just making suggestions to the council, which would you prefer, the redrawn 13 precinct map or the 12 precinct map?
On a personal level, it really wouldn't matter to me either way. I think if I was a councilor, I'd probably want it to stay with 13 precincts. But there again, the way that it has to be withdrawn, redrawn, I should say, I would question again whether that would be a positive or not.
Because of the fact that it would move away from lines being drawn based on village locations.
Right. The Precinct 12 map really kind of sticks a little bit more with the village concept of things, and that is a positive for, I think, a lot of the people. Although the councilors are, and they know it as well as I do, they are councilors for the town of Barnstable, and they represent everybody. But I still think there's that specialness that the people and the councilors look for to have representation from their villages.
What would be the target for a completely newly elected council based on a redrawn precinct map?
I think the state is aiming for us to be at our new level before the 2002 presidential election.
Okay. So what would be the first town council election that would impact? The 2013 election, potentially?
I think we would probably have to wait for some information from the state. We might be able to have a special election in the spring of 2012, but again, we might just have to wait for 2013. I think 2012 is more of a target.
Okay. What types of changes might we see as voters?
As voters, there might be some changes for some voters to have to vote in a different precinct. And I know everybody gets upset, but you have to think about the fact that this comes once every 10 years. Many of the people will remain in the same precinct. But there are some who are right on the border that may end up shuffling to another precinct.
Well, there's a lot of potential changes coming. Should be interesting to see how it all plays out as the council moves forward. And Linda, we certainly appreciate all your insight and expertise on this matter.
Well, it's an interesting time, and I thank you for asking me.
Absolutely, and Happy New Year to you.
Same to you.
Now let's take a look at this week's remaining meetings. On Thursday, January 6th, the Town Council meets in the Town Hall hearing room at 7 p.m. Well, that's all we have for now. I'm Nick Cortez, and we'll see you next time on Barnstable Today.